All right, here we go, y'all. We're going to go ahead and get things underway. Y'all can continue to eat your breakfast if you still have your plate there in front of you, of course. I'd like to introduce right now the head table. Of course, the man himself, Mayor Nicholas, as it says on my paper. His beautiful wife, Stephanie Durzis. We love our First Lady. Mr. Tony Petelos, former mayor of Hoover. There you go. And the guest speaker for today. If you've never heard his story, you're really going to be amazed. Pastor Nathan Carden. Pastor Carden. Father Paul Kostopoulos. My favorite pastor, Buddy Gray. He's mine. And Lynn Franks, Hoover Beautification Board Chair. Also, I'd like to recognize distinguished guests, Hoover City Council members, Christy Driver. Where are you, Christy? Raise your hands if you are out there. Derek Murphy. The very quiet and shy, Stephen McClinton. Mr. Robin Schultz. Jean Smith. And Ashley Lovell. We'd also like to recognize our elected officials here, Congressman Gary Palmer. Senator Jabbo Wagner. Love you, Jabbo. Representative Mike Shaw. Representative Susan DuBose. Representative Lee Halsey. Shelby County Commissioner Judge Mike Boland. And Shelby County District Attorney Matt Casey. We thank you all, and we're so proud that you represent all of us. So again, thank you. Big round of applause for all of those folks. Also, the Hoover Beautification Board members, led by our chairman, Lynn Franks. We appreciate the planning of the board and making this whole event possible. So thank you for what you do and keeping our city beautiful and having these wonderful events. Well, this is the mayor's breakfast, so it is time for the mayor to come up now, and I'm going to, I think most of y'all know who this man is, what he's done, and the history he has here, but I'm going to run down the list, okay? Nicholas C. Durzis took office November 3rd, 2025, with a strong commitment to putting residents first. He was so excited about being the leader of the city after serving as the chief of police for so many years. He brings more than 40 years of dedication to the Hoover community, a city that he really has helped shape and protect. He began his career with the Hoover Police Department in 1979. Oh, the 70s. And rose through the ranks to serve as chief of police. As chief, he led major public safety initiatives, including school resource officers, collaborative law enforcement efforts. Under his leadership, the department earned national accreditation through the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. Born in Berlin and raised in a military family, he brings both global perspective and local commitment to his role. He earned his degree from Stanford University while working full-time and is a graduate of the FBI National Academy. As mayor, he has focused on public safety, economic growth, infrastructure, and transparent leadership. He and his wife Stephanie are active members of the Holy Trinity and Holy Cross Greek Orthodox Cathedral and the proud parents of 3 children. Ladies and gentlemen, our mayor, Nicholas Durzis.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I want to start by thanking the Hoover Beautification Board. And if people don't know, some of my favorite colors are pinks and purples. And as you'll see, they've actually put purple stuff up here. But look at these flowers. So congratulations to them. They were fantastic. And this jazz band, it's a prayer breakfast, and I'm over here dancing at the front. They were fantastic, and I really, really appreciate them being here. I want to start by saying thank you to my wife Stephanie and family members that were able to come, but also to everyone that's here today. So many great friends, leaders in the community, folks that have businesses, clergy. I can't be more proud to be the mayor of this city, and this is what community is all about when I see. The elected officials from the city council, we can't get anything done in the city of Hoover without the relationship with the city council. I want to say thank you very much. And to the other elected officials that have a lot to do with the city of Hoover, from the legislative delegation, thank you guys so much for being here, and we appreciate everything that you do for the city of Hoover. In a few minutes, I'm going to have the distinct honor of introducing our keynote speaker, a man who devoted most of his life to public service, and he helped Hoover grow into really what we know Hoover today. Before I introduce Tony, I want to take a moment and reflect about some things that truly matter. Today's world, we move so fast, sometimes we don't pause long enough to kind of reflect and really to figure really how blessed that we are. And one of the reasons that I like the Hoover Prayer Breakfast, it remains so important because it's not about titles, it's not about partisanship, it's not about politics, it's really about gratitude. It's about coming together as a community to recognize the importance of prayer, humility, and service to others. And regardless of our individual faith traditions and beliefs, I think we all can agree that our communities all strive and do better when they acknowledge the importance of God in our lives, and they remember that leadership ultimately begins with serving others. We're blessed by the people who quietly give themselves every single day to help others, strengthen families, lift up those in need, and make Hoover the remarkable community that we love. And this morning I want to especially recognize some organization individuals who really embody that spirit. I'll start with the Sandlin Foundation for Kids and Kindness, has already made an extraordinary impact in only 6 months of existence. Dwight and Sandy Sandlin and everyone involved, the foundation, they've already committed $2.2 million to 14 charities. 100% of that goes directly to the charities, no overhead, no administrative fees, just impact. And that generosity really impacts our community. Dwight, I know you're here somewhere. Thank you, Dwight. I know Sandy's probably not here. Thank you very much. That work reminds us that leadership is not measured by what we accumulate ourselves, but what we're willing to give back to others. They've also launched with the city of Hoover, the Hoover Heroes program, celebrating exceptionalism. We'll recognize the very best of Hoover, citizens who live lives of service, leadership, and impact. These are the people in the arena, the ones that don't ask for recognition, but deserve it. And these heroes will grow into a lasting tradition in our spirit of our community for decades to come. And we truly thank God for these organizations, the leaders, and the countless volunteers that make such an incredible difference in the community every day. And that spirit of service, the commitment, it's a belief in giving back, and it also brings us today to our keynote speaker. Tony Petelos has spent his life serving others. From the Alabama legislature, to serving as commissioner of the Alabama Department of Human Resources, to becoming the first Jefferson County manager in history. Tony's public service career impacted communities all over the state of Alabama. But those, for us here in Hoover, his legacy is certainly meaningful. In 2004, Hoover was growing rapidly, becoming really one of Alabama's premier cities. During his administration, he continued building the strong foundation that has helped make this city one of the best places in America, not only to live, work, and raise our families. And when you look around Hoover today, neighborhoods, our fantastic schools, our tremendous public safety, our business community, and the quality of life that we all enjoy that live here, it's important to remember that cities do not become successful by accident. They become successful because you've got leaders that make good decisions, they invest in people, and they serve for the right reason. Tony Petelos certainly did that. Now, on a personal level, this introduction means a great deal to me. Tony and I share something other than just public service. We share our Greek heritage. And if you know anything about Greek families and culture, you know that we're rooted in faith, loyalty, and community. Those values shape both of us and the lives and how we approach public service. We also love good food. And one of the proudest moments of my professional career came because of Tony Petelos. He was the mayor in 2005 when he appointed me chief of police. I remember that day the gratitude that I had, the fact that he trusted me enough to make me police chief. And it's really probably one of the greatest moments of my life. In fact, there's only been one professional moment in my life since then, and that was standing before the people of Hoover 21 years later and being elected mayor of this great city. Tony, thank you for believing me that many years ago. Your trust and confidence really changed the course of my life. I'll always be grateful for that. Ladies and gentlemen, Hoover's been blessed by many outstanding leaders over the years. But Tony Petelos unquestionably stands among the most important in our history. Please join us in welcoming our keynote speaker, former mayor, former Jefferson County manager, my friend, Tony Petelos.
Mike won't cooperate right here. Anyway, thank you, Nick. Nick and I go back a long ways, and I was really close with Nick's dad. He was really involved in the Greek organization and at that time, and I knew your dad very well, and he was a colonel in the Army. It's so great to be here today. It's so good to see so many people here. I see some of the retired folks that came back. I see Denise and Lori, Alan Payton, Adna here, David Buchanan somewhere. There he is right here, David. But we have, and there's more retired employees that have showed up today, but it's so good to see everybody here. First of all, I want to introduce my wife. Teresa, stand up. And my daughter, Stephanie. Teresa's a retired circuit judge in Jefferson County, along with Judge Cahill. Judge Cahill, retired judge. I'm very excited to be here to tell my family's story here today. The title of the story is Faith in the Darkest Times, My Family's Journey from Nazi-Occupied Greece to America to Live the American Dream. And on the screen, this is Samos, Greece, that's on the screen now. Samos is a beautiful island. It's off the coast of Turkey in the Aegean Sea. And we're going to go back to 1940, August of 1940. My mother and dad have a good life on Samos. He's a builder. My mother had 3 children. They had 3 children at the time, one on the way, and it was a good life. But it was obvious that the good days would be over with, that Mussolini was planning to invade Greece. And so my dad was in the Army Reserves, Nicholas Petelos, and my mother was Irene Petelos. And so my dad was in the reserves, and he was called up to duty. So was all the other able-bodied men from the island. They left the island to prepare for the invasion of Greece. Mussolini attempted to invade Greece on October 28th. He failed. That day became a national holiday in Greece. Even today, it's called Orchi Day, which means no, telling Mussolini, no, you cannot come in. And so Mussolini thought that he could come to Greece and take it over in a matter of weeks. Months later, the Mussolini's army did not make much progress at all. So Mussolini had to get Hitler involved. And when he got Hitler involved, it was over with, because now the Greeks were fighting the Mussolini's army and Hitler's army, and there wasn't much they could do. The next slide, this is April 27th, 1941. That's the Nazi flag being raised in Athens, Greece, in front of the Parthenon in 1941. It's really ironic because Athens, Greece is the birthplace of democracy. 2,500 years ago, Athens went to a new form of government, a democratic form of government. The Greek word is demokratia, which means ruled by the people. But on that day in 1941, in April, Greece lost all their rights, and we had a madman named Adolf Hitler running the country. Greece lost over 600,000 civilians during World War II. And after World War II, there was a civil war between the communists and the pro-democracy group. And so for 9 years, Greece was in turmoil. They lost 600,000 civilians. 11% of the civilian population lost their lives during that period. Over 100,000 children lost their lives during that period. And at that time, when my father had left Greece, my mother never saw him again for 7 years. 7 years, she had no idea where my dad was. For 7 years, my dad did not know whether the family had survived, and he couldn't go back. The Germans the ports were blockaded. There was no food coming in. There were no supplies coming in, and the people literally starved to death in Greece at that time. And then there was a terrible civil war after that. So it was a very, very dark time. When my dad left Greece in 1940, my mother was 24 years old. She had 3 children and one on the way. She had her mother living with her, she had her sister living with her, and she had the 3 kids. And she had to go through the war by herself under Nazi occupation. Now, the American Red Cross, they heard my mother's story, and they came when I was mayor, Nick. They came and interviewed me to do the story about my parents. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show. It's a 2-minute video about my family's journey to the United States, or my dad, what he went through, and then afterwards I'm going to go into more detail. So I'm going to show the story. Just look at the screen. This is from the American Red Cross.
When the war broke out, my father, my grandfather, and my 2 uncles all left Greece. picked him up, and he stayed with the British, made it to Egypt, and then ultimately to New York, and then he joined the U.S. Army and fought in the U.S. Army. But my mother was stranded on the island of Samos, Greece, under Nazi occupation. The Nazis during that time were executing people. If someone killed a Nazi soldier, then they would line up 7 citizens from the island and make the people come out and watch those executions. My father could not go back to Greece. My mother was stranded there. She did not know what was going on in the world because they were just isolated. And my father he did not know who survived the war. She did not know whether he had survived until 1947 when she received a telegram from the Red Cross stating that I'm alive and well in the United States to send for you soon. The Red Cross was very instrumental in making that a reality. The fact that they were able to reunite my family was a turning point for my family, because after the telegram arrived, it was shortly thereafter that my mom was able to get on that USS Marine Park troop carrier and come to the United States with her family. You know, after World War II, in Greece with the Nazi occupation, the executions and all thousands of Greeks who were killed during the war, she was ready to start a new life, and this gave her that opportunity to start a new life and live the American dream here in the United States. The American Red Cross was there for my family over 60-something years ago. They reunited my father and my mother and her 3 children at that time. That was an important part in my family's life.
What an incredible journey that they made. Now, when my dad passed away, I was 9 years old. So I never had the opportunity to talk to my father about the war. And so several years ago, I started doing research and trying to find information. When my dad came to the United States, he went to Waterloo, Iowa to live with his uncles. And I found this newspaper article. This newspaper article is, that's my dad with the machine gun. And this is the Waterloo newspaper. The date of it is 1942. And I'm going to read a couple of excerpts from the newspaper article. Greek soldier wounded 3 times, safe here after escape from Nazis. 3 times wounded in the Italian and German campaign, Nicholas Petelos above, Greek machine gunner, has found safety in the United States after a daring escape from Nazis and is staying with relatives here. The picture was taken when Petelos was in training in Albania in September 1940. So I found this newspaper article. So I was able to find, there's a lot of information there. So there's a lot of information I didn't know, my family didn't know about until I found this article. Then I found another article. This is my dad, that's a picture of him. And this article, it says, Greek Nicholas Petelos is hoping to meet Nazis again. My dad did something. He didn't have to do this. He went and joined the U.S. Army. And my dad was so grateful to the United States that let him come over as a refugee. He came over and he was ready to go back to Europe to fight the Germans. This is a picture of him in his uniform. He's on the left-hand side, and he joined the army. And for him to have been captured by the Nazis, when Greece fell, the soldiers, thousands of them, became prisoners of war. And for him to want to go back and do that again, and that just showed his dedication and thankfulness to the United States for allowing him to come and be in this country. Now, I have another picture here. This is my mother, and this is my sister Maria, the youngest, and then Pauline, and then Angelo. And see the cross my mother's wearing? My mother was a praying warrior. She prayed all the time, and she was I call her the praying warrior. And the thing about my mother, she never complained. And she always was trying to do the right thing and to help her kids. So during the war, her number one goal was to keep her family safe. Now, my mother, we were able to have discussions with my mother about the war. She didn't want to talk about it because it was some really bad things that had happened during that time. But one night, there's a knock on the door, and my grandmother was living with my mother at the time because all the men had left. And there's a knock on the door. My grandmother, a little short lady, about this tall. She opens the door, and there's two German soldiers standing there. The family was terrified, and they came into the house. And so the youngest sister, Maria, she went and hid from the soldier. Well, she did a lousy job of hiding. He went and found her. And he picked her up and took her into the kitchen and sat her on his lap, and he gave her a candy bar. And the soldiers, they came there, they wanted to cook some food. And so they cooked their food, and after they left some food for the family. So my mother, thank God, I said she was a praying warrior. Thank God that it was two decent human beings that showed up at her house that night. Because my brother Angelo, he actually witnessed civilians being executed. If they had curfews in place, and if you were caught at night out, they would shoot to kill. If you killed a Nazi soldier, they would line up 7 citizens and execute them. In one part of Greece, they killed a general, and they killed 20 civilians. No, I'm sorry, 200 civilians. They executed, so everybody could watch. And that area where that execution took place, there's a monument there highlighting what happened. Also, another story from my mother was, my sister Maria told my mother, "I'm hungry." And my mother says, "Pray about it. You'll be fine." And that afternoon, relatives brought food to my mother's house, and they were able to eat. They would go days without eating. There was no commerce. There was no ship. The ships were the ports. There was nothing coming in. And in this island of Samos, they were under they were under the Italian occupation, and then they were under the German occupation, and then they were under the Civil War with the communists. So it was a terrible time and a terrible place to be during that time. Also, my mother would send the kids out to pick dandelions. And so they would bring the dandelions in. They would boil the dandelions, and they would eat it. That would be their supper. And then in the morning, my mother would save the juice, and that would be their breakfast in the morning. But my mother said the only food they had is whatever they grew in the garden or whatever they fished out of the ocean. Now, the townspeople, the city is Karlovy, is a small town, and the townspeople helped each other, and they would share food, and they would help each other out, because most of the young men had left, to fight in the war. The saddest thing that happened was my mother had the baby, it was an infant baby. They didn't have food, they didn't have milk, and they didn't have medicine to help the baby, and the baby passed away. And there was no men in the household. So imagine this, it was my mother, my grandmother, and the 3 kids, and my aunt. They had to take the baby and go bury the baby themselves. Now, I can't even imagine what that would be like. But they did the burial themselves. So it was a tough time. And like I said, my brother Angelo, he actually witnessed executions that they did at that time. My mother never called herself a hero, but Winston Churchill said it best about the Greek people. And this is a quote from Winston Churchill. If it were not for the bravery of the Greeks and their courage, the outcome of World War II would be undetermined. He was talking about Greek soldiers, but he could have been talking about my mother and thousands of other mothers in Greece at the time, carrying faith so deep that no occupation army, no famine, no silence, nothing in the world can extinguish my mother's faith. My mother never gave up hope and her prayers, and she prayed all the time. Her prayers were answered. She gets the miracle prayer. She gets the miracle telegram from the American Red Cross that says my daddy's okay. The townspeople were excited for my mother, giving them hope for missing members of their families. The Red Cross arranged passage for my family to the United States on the USS Marine Corps. This is the ship that they came over. Now that ship, during the war, they moved troops around, and then after the war, they were moving civilians around. And I don't know how in the world the Red Cross did it. I don't know how in the world my mother went from the island to Athens to get on this ship to go to New York, but they did. My mother garnered her children, left the island, and the only life she had known, she trusted that God was opening a new door. To this day, we still do not know what happened to her father and her brother. They disappeared into the darkness of war and were never heard from again. So as she crossed the ocean towards a new beginning, she carried with her both the joy of reunion with her husband, and the quiet grief of those in her family who never came home. The Statue of Liberty, I'm going to tell this story, and it's my sister Maria. So they're on the boat. They're coming to New York to meet my dad, and my sister sees this giant lady standing on the water, and she's thinking, where are we going, to land of giants? And she didn't know where we were going. Now remember, the three kids that my mother had at that time coming over to the United States, the only thing they knew was war. For 7 years, they suffered for 7 years. They knew nothing. And now they're heading their way to New York City. Another story with my sister is, well, the whole family. So they get to New York. My mother says, kids, y'all watch out for y'all's dad. Of course, she said it in Greek. She didn't say y'all, but Nakitazi Petelos, look for your daddy. And so all three kids looked up to my mother and said, we don't know what he looks like. So they arrive in New York, they're reunited, and that night they stay at a hotel. Probably the tallest building in Samos, Greece is 3 stories. That's pushing it. And so they're living in New York, these giant buildings, and then the young sister, she's just baffled. At night, she wakes up looking out the window, there's cars and people walking and talking, and she said, where do these people sleep? Where are they going? So it was a traumatic change from war-torn Samos to New York City. So my dad, they went to Waterloo, Iowa, where my uncles lived, and they stayed there. I think they lived there for 1.5 years. My dad hated it there. Can you imagine? You live in this beautiful island in Greece, and now you live in Waterloo, Iowa. So my dad was smart. He moved everybody to Birmingham. So, and he was a builder, so he didn't like the cold and the ice and the snow. So he bought a lot in Inslee, and he bought a lot, and he actually built our house. And I drove by there a few months ago, and it's still there. He did a great job building the house. And so they had 5 children in the United States, and they were living the American dream. My mother became a naturalized citizen. My dad had already been a naturalized citizen, and they were living the American dream. But tragedy strikes again for my mother. My dad goes in the hospital for simple surgery, and he had complications, and he died. So my mother now had 5 children in the United States to raise by herself. My dad had no life insurance or anything like that. So people ask me, what did you do? Well, we all went to work. We were kids. We were teenagers. We had to go to work. We were cutting grass. We were raking leaves. We were doing odd jobs. My brother Johnny, who's here, Johnny, he had a paper route, and we had and no one in our house was old enough to drive. My mother never learned to drive, and so the only mode of transportation we had was bicycle and public transportation. And so we threw the newspapers, the Birmingham News newspaper, and on Sunday, the newspaper would be 3 times the size of the daily paper, so it took 2 of us. And we had bicycles, and we'd get up at 4 a.m. on Sunday, ride to the Inslee, downtown Inslee, to the distribution center, wrap the papers, and throw them. So when we come home, it'd be nice to go back to bed, but no, my mother said, y'all got to go to church. And so my mother made us go to church every Sunday. She was able to find transportation for us because buses didn't run on Sunday. And we were living in Inslee, and of course the church is in downtown on 3rd Avenue South. And so my mother had transportation. There was a man, his name was Mr. Angelo, who used to pick us up and take us to church. And he smoked this nasty cigar. And we would fight who sat behind him because the window was down. He's thumping that cigar and coming back in your face. And we would fight who sat behind him. But my mother had us in church every Sunday. She wanted us to do the right thing. She wanted us to live a good life. And she did everything in her power to do that. And so we survived. We did good. We pooled our money together. We're a big family. We pooled our money together, and we were able to make ends meet, and we survived, and we did well. I'm going to put another slide up here. This is the family. This is the only picture I think we have of my mother and dad and the 8 kids. Now, I have a twin sister, Gracie. So my mother is holding her favorite, which is me. And she's holding, and then Pauline, my sister Pauline is holding Gracie. And then there's Billy, and then Martha and John. And then my older brother Angelo's in the background, my sister Maria on the left. So I was the youngest, and my brother Angelo was the oldest in the family. This picture here. Now, Chief, do you remember this day? I remember. We had a great time. Lori was there, Aaron was there, David was there, Chief Wingate was there. We had a good time. But President Bush came to City Hoover in 2006. He wanted to highlight what we were doing with alternative energy in the city of Hoover. And he came and we had the press conference. And as we left the press conference, the president asked me, he said, are you going to the luncheon? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, just ride with me. And I said, okay, I will. So this is me getting into the presidential limousine at that time. And the Secret Service guy, he grabs me. He didn't really grab me. He took me, put me in the back seat, and he shut the door, and it was swoosh. It was dead silence. It was a soundproof. The car was soundproof. The Governor Riley and President Bush decided to shake hands. So I'm sitting in the back seat of the president's limousine by myself. And so, Birmingham News reporter asked me, said, well, what were you thinking? I said, well, the first thing I was thinking, there was a phone right here. It was a red phone. It had a cord. It was like a landline. It wasn't a cordless phone. And it's sitting right there. And I'm thinking, if I pick this phone up, I wonder who's going to be on the other end. But I chickened out. I didn't pick it up. But the next thing I thought of was my mother, this poor immigrant lady who suffered during the war, who continued to pray, who continued to keep on a straight path and never give up hope. And that day gave me the opportunity. It wasn't me, it was my mother who put me in that car that day. And it's not me standing here, it's my mother who had me do the right thing for who I am today and where I'm standing here today with you today. And so I give the credit to God and to my mother. And so it was, and when we rode with the president, we had some conversations with him, but the entire time I was thinking about my mother in that trip, that what she suffered and what she endured, and here I am riding in the back seat with the President of the United States. And it was a pretty awesome experience thinking about my mother during that time. In Apostle Paul's letter to the Christians that were in Rome, in chapter 5, he talks about suffering, endurance, character, and hope. He reminds believers that our suffering is not wasted because God can use it to build endurance, shape our character, and anchor our hope in Him. My mother lived those words, not in church, not in a classroom. She lived in an occupied island in the darkest years of the 20th century, with children clinging to her and enemy soldiers outside her door. She suffered, she endured, and she never, not for a single day, let up hope. What happened to this? This is all the siblings now. This was in 2008. That's all my brothers and sisters. And what happened to us all? Well, my sister Gracie, she's not able to be here today. She lives in Virginia. My brother Billy's here with Babs. Billy, raise your hand. Billy and Babs are here. Also, my sister Martha and her husband Don here. Don, raise your hand. And then my brother John is here, and his wife Evelyn. They're here. Now, let me ask this question. Dr. Petelos, Greenville Pediatrics, who in here was a patient? Who in here has a child or grandchild of Dr. Petelos? Raise your hand. Johnny, you did good. My brother Angelo, many of you remember Angelo. He passed away several years ago, 12 years ago. But Angelo was the oldest in the family, and he was like a dad to us. He was much older than we were, and he helped take care of us. He took over my dad's construction business when my father passed away. And his son Nick is here with his wife Yvonne is here. And then my sister Pauline wanted to live the American dream Pauline's way. And so Pauline eloped and moved to California. And Pauline was a wonderful person. She passed away. We had her funeral about 6 months ago in California. She was a wonderful person with this infectious laugh, and she never met a stranger. And we're going to miss Pauline. But her oldest son, Chris, is here with his wife, Marion, from California. They're here with us today. Now, as I close, I want to bring the story right to the room. Do what? What? All right, anyway. As I close, I want to bring the story right to the room. You heard me speak about my mother and father, about war and famine and faith. But there's someone here today who did not just hear these stories, she lived them. My sister Maria lived under Nazi occupation as a child. She knew the hunger, the danger, and the grief I've described. She never let go of her faith in God. Maria, please stand up. Maria's a child that survived living with the Nazis and the Germans and the communists during that time in the war. And she's here with her family. Tim, raise your hand. Their son, Tony from Texas. Their other son, Nick from Tennessee. And their daughter, Sophia from Charleston. This is not a story from the distant past. This is my sister. This is living proof that God can carry a child through the darkest times and give her a life, a family, and a future. I think it's safe to say my mother's prayers for her family were answered, and we all were able to live the American dream. We're living proof of what one woman can do with nothing but her faith, her courage, the love she had for her family in the darkest times. God can use an ordinary person, a young mother on a small island, to do extraordinary things. And also I want to recognize somebody else here, John Quinteris. Many of you remember him from his restaurant, Nabil's. John was a child living, like Maria, was a child living in Greece under Nazi occupation also. And every family has a story similar to mine, and John was one of those. And I failed to mention John's daughter, Alexis. Alexis, raise your hand. And Alexis' husband is whoever then, Coach Tim Vakakis. Tim, no, you got to stand up, Tim. Tim's a coach at Hoover Spain Park, has done an incredible job there with his football team. And I was so excited when Tim got the job at the city. Father Paul told me the story about my mom. My mom had one more tragedy that she had to live with. She had dementia, she had Alzheimer's, and she had she was in bad shape with Alzheimer's disease. And Father Paul went to see her just days before she passed. And when he went to see her, he was reciting the Lord's Prayer in Greek to her. And she opened her eyes and she chimed in and said the prayers with the Lord's Prayer with Father Paul. And she chimed right on in. My mom prayed to the very end, to the last day of her life. And she was a prayer warrior. And I'm a firm believer that prayers are answered because my whole family is here today, and we're all living proof of that. May her memory be eternal, and may God bless America. And thank you all for being here today. But also, I want to recognize somebody. Buddy, you've done a fabulous job at Hunter Street. When you were in Ansley and then moved to Hoover, everybody in Ansley thought you were crazy. But no. But you've done an incredible job at Hunter Street Baptist Church for 40 years. And Father Paul was, let me say this about Father Paul. He's been in our community for 3 generations, for 3 decades now. And he did the eulogy at my mother's funeral and just did a fabulous job. Again, thank you all for being here, and may God bless America.
Is that not amazing? What an incredible, incredible message. Tony Petelos, you are a gem. You are a joy. And we're blessed to have you.
Amen.
Thank you. Well, you've heard him talk about Buddy Gray. Buddy is going to do our benediction. Buddy Gray is a wonderful human being, too.
Thank you. Before I pray, I just want to say to Tony, thank you for sharing. I've been to a lot of these meetings, and they've all been good, but I've never heard one talk about prayer at a prayer meeting. And I think we have all been encouraged by your mother. Irene was her name, right? I caught that her name's Peace. And the Bible says to be anxious for nothing, but pray about everything. And you're going to do one of those two things even today. You're going to be anxious or you're going to pray. And I think that what Tony shared about his mom is an encouragement to all of us. I believe that he glorified God today, but he honored his mom. And I want us to be people as we leave today to understand that we serve a great God who hears our prayers. And I'd like for us to pray together. Lord, we are thankful that you are a sovereign God. We're thankful for your providence and that you're working at all times, even when we can't understand your ways. We will trust your heart. Lord, we have all gone through difficult times, probably nothing like the Petelos family has gone through. But Lord, you have promised that your grace is sufficient for our every need. You have told us that you have not because you ask not. So Lord, let us be men and women who know you and love you and serve you and absolutely depend on you. I thank you for all the leaders that are here, the governmental leaders, the leaders in the homes, the schools, the churches. Lord, I thank you for each of these people, and I believe that you have placed each of them in a specific place to serve you and serve this community. So Lord, as we leave this place today, let us do so with great joy, having been encouraged by a testimony about your grace, your goodness, and how you use the prayers of people like us. It is in Jesus' name we pray, and all God's people said, amen.
Amen. What a beautiful day. Don't we all feel blessed today? What a wonderful message. Thank you, buddy. We love you so much. As we conclude this morning, we do invite you to take the prayer card that's on your table, just as a reminder of today, and hope it continues to bring you blessings. Also, you can check on the back of your program. If you have a little sticker on there, then that centerpiece is yours. So that's a little fun thing. So look on the back and see who gets that centerpiece. Thank you for being here. Oh, everybody's getting happy. Thank you for being here, for your presence. Thank you for your continued commitment to Hoover. And we love you very much.